Yes, I mean, what a difference a week makes, right? You know, Jonathan Gannon made adjustments. Jalen Hurts, I don't think it's a hot take to say he looked like Donovan out there at times.
You got Mega Mac guys, McMullen and McDonald here with you on Bird 365. Always our pleasure when we get Kevin Kinkead from Crossing Broad to join us. He's got the hat. He's got the earbuds in. He's looking good.
Yeah.
But I'm going to have to put him on the spot before we ever do anything. KK, you know you're my guy, right?
It's way too early for this question, I think.
Yeah, it might be. Just my judgment over the last, and I go to the site every single day. Who's put up more posts in the last week, 2 weeks, month? You pick it, choose the time frame you want. You or Kyle Pagan. What happened? You were the guy. You were like 95% of the posts. This guy is muscling in on your action, big guy.
I know. Well, as it should have been. Like, who wants to read a website where I write 95% of the things? There should be more diversity.
I'm good. Okay. I was good with that.
Thank you. I appreciate
that. 97.6.
At one point, it was. You know how many stories I've done for Crossing Broad since I joined? I guess it was 2017. It's September 2017. I've done 7,500 something. Not all of them Jody or Pulitzer winners, though. You know, you just drop like a Twitter video in there and you write like 2 sentences and you call it a post. You know, but truly the answer is actually I still have the edge on him because he's down doing the videos at the tailgates and he's doing the the Dollar Dog Night promo stuff. So he's been doing more like digital and like expanding our footprint.
Godspeed to him for doing that stuff. I mean, that
was quite the adventure at the tailgate. He said it was the drunkest tailgate he's ever been to.
Nice.
Yeah, well, Monday night you got all day to get ready.
Season opener Monday night 1-0. Yeah, it was. I can't even imagine, high bar to clear too for Eagles fans. So
yes, very high bar. Speaking of high bar, where is this team on the pantheon of great teams in NFL history, Kevin? Are we top 10 yet?
Oh man, 2 games in. They could be the greatest team of all time. Well, last week it depends what week you ask me. Last week they could have been the worst defense of all time, and then this week they're. This is, by the way, Jody, why we had John on a Crossing broadcast, because we wanted a pragmatic Eagles personality, none of the knee-jerk stuff. But yes, I mean, what a difference a week makes, right? Jonathan Gannon made adjustments. Jalen Hurts, I don't think it's a hot take to say he looked like Donovan out there at times. And
he looked great.
They were up for it, and you saw the adjustments that were made defensively, offensively. I like the game plan. Not really sure what the Vikings were doing defensively, but
I don't think any of us were.
But. No, but I mean, you take what you can get. I honestly thought that Jalen played his best NFL game.
That I agree. I called it his best professional game, certainly from a passing perspective. Now, but you bring up the opponent, and you have to put that, because I still don't know what Ed Donatel was trying to do. And Next Gen Stats put up something about the Eagles receivers, their separation. The numbers were astronomical. The average was 2.9. Dallas was at 5.4. Zach Pascal was at 4.8. Quez Watkins was at 4.6. AJ Brown was at 3.7. Point I'm trying to make, the receivers were open and they were running free. Do we look at the opponent and say that added into it, or we just say, okay, Jalen Hurts was great?
I think you just do a little bit of everything. I mean, they were playing a lot of that kind of soft shell, cover 2 stuff that we were complaining about Jonathan Gannon last year, right? And they still, within that, they still beat him deep on the blown coverage on the Quez Watkins.
It's amazing. All these teams want to play safe, and they blow coverages anyway.
Exactly. So I don't know if they were just trying to keep everything in front of them, or if they were trying to, make Jalen Hurts beat him with his arm, which he did. So, but it was quizzical to see what they were doing. No real adjustments at halftime. But Jalen, to his credit, took what was given to him, and he worked within that framework of, this is what the defense is showing me, and I'm going to attack it this way. I think that probably, addressed probably the biggest criticism that people had of him, which was coming out of college, was he's a one-read guy. He's going to look for his receiver, and if CeeDee Lamb or whoever, Charleston Rambo's not there, I'm going to pull it down, take off. So I think he just looked more composed in there. He didn't look as antsy, right? He looked calm and he looked collected, and he was picking out the right guys. It seemed like he was going through his reads. And it's funny because they do the the statistic after the game. I think it was something like he was the first Eagles quarterback to go for, or the first quarterback ever, I think, to go for 300 yards, 80% completion, 80 completion percentage, and two rushing touchdowns. It's funny, John, because we that kind of originated in basketball, and I thought a lot of those stats were total BS, because you can just pick like an arbitrary threshold and say, like, well, Robert Covington was the first person to get like 1.2 steals per game, 0.4 deflections, and they normally don't mean anything. But the thing that popped about that was his completion percentage, because you look at the games that Jalen played last year, he had some games where he threw monster stats up there, but he was completing like 55% of his passes, 57% of his passes. So for him to balance out the rushing touchdowns and the rushing performance that he had with just accuracy was the takeaway from what people were saying with them.
Yeah. And I thought his best two throws, sorry, Jody, I'm being too wordy. That's my fault. But I thought his best two throws were incompletions. His first incompletion,
Dallas
Goedert.
Yeah.
Phenomenal throw. And then later there was a penalty. It got brought back. He had a throw to Quez Watkins that was a pretty big gain, 30-something yards down the field.
Was that the rollout to his left? Yes,
rollout to his left. Pinpoint throw. I thought it was ironic. His two best throws were incompletions, because one was stripped, one was brought back with penalty. So
and that was a really, really good play by the DB on that first one. But again, he kind of just dropped it into a bucket. See the first line and the second line, and can you that's probably one of the hardest NFL throws that there is, to kind of just like put it over top of the first line and sink it in before the safety can get in there. And credit to the DB for coming in and breaking it up. Yeah, and the second one was. And it's funny because when he's flush from the pocket, he's normally going to his right. He's normally throwing on.
And he's going to his left. Yeah.
So for him to
more impressive.
Right, and it was not the right side that collapsed. He saw it on his blind side, skirted around that guy. Then he pivoted and set and saw Quez Watkins coming. I agree. Yeah, I think it's funny too, because he was. I think before that, John, he was like 12 for 12 for 157 yards. So that was his first. Yeah, the Dallas Goedert play was his first incompletion for sure. But I don't know. He just looked like he was just playing within himself a little bit more, and he was content to kind of like sit there, like let things materialize. And when he had to go, he had to go. But he also, to pair with that, there were times where he knew he wasn't going to get any of the yardage, and he kind of gave himself up, and didn't push for that. He protected himself, I thought. And I mean, when you combine all of that, to me, I went through the list from last year and the year before, and I couldn't find a better game that he played. I mean, in Arizona in 2020, he put up some monster stats. I think he had like a 54 completion percentage. And last year, he had some good games on the road. But to go head to head with a decent quarterback, and clearly be the best guy on the night in prime time, I mean, I thought that was a big step for him.
And even his INT was a ball that Kenneth Gainwell could have caught. It went right off his hands. Now, I thought it was a little ill-advised to throw it into the crowd that he did, but he put it on the money, and Gainwell's got to come down with that. And he did.
It did hit him on the hands. Yeah, it did hit him on the hands. Yeah, the timing of that looked a little bit off. And I mean, on that one penalty too, because people, I know a big topic was the illegal man downfield penalties too. I think on the first one, the timing was just a little bit off on that. But, that's stuff you pick up after a while. Maybe next time he comes around, he just, throws it into the ground, and you don't have that. So.
I do want to talk about, I'm going to borrow from my pragmatic partner here, about the CEO coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. Nick Sirianni kind of flying under the radar. We've been giving Shane Steichen a ton of props today, deservedly so. Jonathan Gannon got a bunch as soon as the game ended, because he went from being the most hated man in Philadelphia to a conquering hero, because he blitzed a little bit in game number 2. And meanwhile, the head coach is the guy who's kind of pushing all the buttons. He's giving his lieutenants a lot of leeway, but he's the guy who's running the show. Are we not giving enough credit to the head coach of this 2-0 starting Philadelphia Eagle team?
Well, the sports books are, because they've got him second now for coach of the year. I mean, I know you're only 2 weeks in, but the odds shift every week, and right now it's him and Mike McDaniel at the very top, which is crazy. But I think you have to. Wow. Yeah, I think you have to. I think a very mature thing in leadership, a skill that not everybody has, is the ability to take a step back and trust the people who are around you, and let them do their jobs, and you become more of an overseer. It's funny because I've kind of experienced this a little bit over the last year because I got a promotion with the company that owns Crossing Broad. So I have a couple guys I'm responsible for, however you want to label that, right? You could be, up their butt every 5 seconds, telling them, hey, do this, do that, do this. But, if you take a step back and you say, hey, like, we know this person's good. We hired this person for a reason. We believe in this person. Like, they're skilled, take a step back, let people do what they've been hired to do, and let them flourish. I think there's something to be said for that. I know people usually look at it as like a negative kind of thing because they're like, well, he's less involved now and they're playing better. But no, I think sometimes like to remove yourself from the equation, let other people focus on what they've been hired to do. That kind of lets them take off, and he's last year, Nick Sirianni was a first-time head coach, first-time play caller, first time dealing with the media. I mean, he was taking so much onto his shoulders that sometimes the dispersal of responsibilities just streamlines everything and makes it run better. So I think that's something that people got to focus on when they're talking about the divvying up of responsibilities this year.
Yeah, and I love Jody knows I've been advocating CEO coaches for a long time, and it's so rare. It makes no sense to me. I mean, because most of the NFL is set up. Really, you have a head coach who's really a coordinator that deals with the media more than the other coordinator who's sort of the assistant head coach. And you saw it here with Doug Peterson and Jim Schwartz. Doug had nothing to do with the defense. I mean, nothing. Yeah. When I say nothing, I mean 100% nothing. So, when your name, as Nick Sirianni says, is on everything in the organization, and this goes to Howie Roseman as well from his GM philosophy. He's like, if I'm going to get blamed for Jalen Reagor, I might as well make the decision. That's Howie's philosophy. Yeah, I'm not sure that's the best philosophy. This is not the best time to point out that Howie is sort of taken on more responsibility. I think it was unique that he finally gave out the assistant GM tag. Like, he wouldn't give it to Joe Douglas. He wouldn't give it to Andy Weidel, but he gave it to Alec Halaby, the analytics guy, and John Ferrari, the football sort of rules guy. He won't give it to a personnel guy.
Yeah.
Again, not the best time to say it, Kevin, but I don't think that's the best way to go long term. Whereas Nick Sirianni feels very comfortable in his own skin. All right, you want to give credit to Shane Steichen, give credit to Shane Steichen. I think that's a very positive thing.
I think so too, and I think that you, like, at the very top, you need like a glue guy. A head coach really has to play the role of like a utility kind of like pull it together kind of dude. Here's probably a stupid analogy. It could be a great analogy. Let me try it and we'll find out. But when the Miami Heat won a couple titles back in the day, the stars were LeBron and Chris Bosh and D Wade, but they had Shane Battier on those teams too. If you took that Miami Heat roster and you had them run a business, the best guy at the top to be the organizer and pull it all together and keep everybody working together probably would have been Battier. Just because certain people have a skill set for delineating and dividing up responsibilities and being organizers. Some people thrive at their certain thing, but they need to be put in an environment where they're able to do that. So oftentimes the person above them becomes a shield for all the like corporate crapola. Hey, I'll deal with the media. I'll deal with this email chain. I'll do this 10 o'clock meeting so you don't have to. And you find out in which situations, in which environments people are successful, and you put them in that environment and you let them do their thing, So I think that's just as important as anything, is knowing when to detach yourself as much as when to involve yourself.
Yeah.
The push and pull of like, hey, I'm going to get in and I'm going to put my hands on this versus I don't need to, because I trust these guys. These guys are good. I know what they're doing. And this is what we hired them to do.
No, I like your analogy a lot. It's
all right. Good.
A little too deep for me.
I don't know why that was the first thing that came to mind. Like Shane Battier was the first dude I thought of. That's pretty weird. But
I believe you were right on point. I'm going to make it a little bit more simplistic here. Carson Wentz Sunday, boos and cheers.
Yeah.
He's going to get them both. But will he be getting more boos from the Commander fans Or the Eagle fans, because he's doing well, will he be getting more cheers from the Commander fans? Or the Eagle fans who are going to be in the house? Because they're going to be in the house down there in D.C. because he's playing poorly. What's Carson's game look like after the fact?
Well, let me answer a question with a question. Do the Commanders really have any fans at this point that are going to be down there? I don't know how much they care. It feels to me like it's going to be one of those Phillies Nationals games from 10 years ago, where it was just like, the ballpark was just filled with traveling supporters, But I think Carson's probably going to have a rough one. I've always just been fascinated about that whole thing because I think like it's very hard to find middle of the road takes when it comes to Carson. Like people either hate his guts and think he's the worst guy on the planet, some North Dakota redneck or whatever. And then the other half, say, hey, there would be no Super Bowl if it wasn't for Carson and what he did for those first, 13 games.
I'm in that category, by the way.
I think so too.
Super Bowl.
No, I think so too. I just don't, and I think John, people have trouble separating what happened in 2017 versus then the drama of the next few years.
Yeah.
I think we just have this like knee jerk reaction to lump all of that together and evaluate it in like a one big vacuum. But I think when you split it out over a certain amount of years, indisputably Carson played a role in bringing this team its first Super Bowl ever, so you have to respect that. That's why I always drew the distinction too between because people ask me, they're like, why do you guys go so hard after Ben Simmons, but you don't go after Carson the same way that you do him? Well, because Ben Simmons totally quit, had nothing to do with winning a title here, and was not playing at an MVP level in 2017. So I don't even know why I get those emails, but they come, but I think he's gonna have a rough one for sure. But their passing offense is low key, pretty damn good. And he's
has been so far.
Yeah, and he's got some diverse kind of different skill set.
Curtis Samuel's back. Yeah.
I think he's
been a high target guy.
Yeah, probably be a little closer than people think. But I mean, if you're asking me from a crowd perspective, I think he's probably going to hear it from both sides.
How much revisionist history do you think we're going to get this week? I put out the tweet earlier when we talked, everybody's so high on Jalen Hurts. When the Eagles drafted Jalen Hurts, it was to be a cost-effective backup or an injury-prone quarterback.
Yeah.
How many people go, the Eagles know what they were doing? How much revisionist history do you think we're going to see?
It's going to be the Super Bowl of revisionist history. This is going to be like the apex of, We keep it pretty low key in the Crossing Broad, internal communications channel, but we will go at each other when it comes to the Carson Wentz stuff because we have a couple guys who just hate him and think he's the scum of the earth. And these are otherwise pretty low key impartial kind of, jaded and burned out people just like me, but they get so worked up about Carson Wentz because they just thought, I guess they felt like they were sold a bill of goods or something. And I don't know what it is, but yes, again, we have to go back and look at the moment. Nobody during that draft thought that was a good draft pick, because even if
Jody liked it.
He was
for
very
the stated reason, which I couldn't believe that nobody could comprehend that they were just taking a backup quarterback.
Yeah.
And
how many teams take a backup quarterback in the second round?
Not many. Not many.
Yeah. Well, we don't have to relitigate all of that, but to the point, yes, I think it's going to be the Super Bowl of revisionist history, just because everybody had an opinion about that, and I don't even think it's a legit. I think it's I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but it's not even really a legit argument because they brought him in to be a backup and not to be the starter. They were committed to Carson at that point. So it's not like it was a, pick between the two of those guys kind of thing. Yeah. Luckily, I'm off tomorrow and Friday, so I have removed myself from the conversation,
Yeah, but that gets you back in before Sunday when the game happens. So,
I know. I'm going to have to do something on the site, I'm sure.
Yes, and we'll be on the lookout for it. KK, always a pleasure. Appreciate whenever you hop on board with us. Thank you very much for doing so today. And don't tell Pagat that I don't like him, because I do. I think he's good. I need more Kinkead. I'm sorry. I know I'm putting you to work, buddy, but I think you got to put out some more posts.
We'll work on the ratio. It's football season. This is when every sports media household in Philadelphia pays the bills. So I got to get back on it. I got to get that ratio up.
Yeah, forget run pass ratio. We need more
Kinkead
ratio.
More content.
Yeah. Always a pleasure, KK. Thanks, bud.
Thanks, yeah.
All right.